we have Rachel Manuel working for True North News, and she is going to be talking about how Danielle Smith's Bill 20, to stop non Canadians from voting in municipal elections, has some other interesting stuff added on to the bill that might be a little bit overreaching. And for those of us patriots out there, we are trying for decentralization in our politics, and this looks like putting a lot of power at the provincial level. So we're going to take a look at what Rachel Emanuel is saying about this, and then we're going to just talk about whether this is a good direction, bad direction for Alberta, maybe a mishandling by Danielle Smith. We'll see. So here's Rachel Emanuel, True North News. Let's get to it.
The Alberta government is in its second week of defending controversial Bill 20, legislation which would ban tabulators and allow political parties in municipal votes. But the good in the bill is being overshadowed by this bit, which would allow the Alberta cabinet to fire city councillors and overturn local bylaws when it's in the public interest. Now listen, you don't have to look far in Alberta to find an example of a city council which is running their municipality into the ground. If you live in Red Deer, you either have to look an hour and a half to the south or to the north to find an example of a city council that's wreaking havoc on hard-working, tax-paying citizens. But more government is not the solution here. If you don't like your city councillors or city council, then the onus is on you to organize to remove them. If you're still unconvinced, imagine the damage a future NDP government could do with this type of legislation. Those rare voices of common sense on your city council would become less and less common. But even if the Conservatives are the only government to use this legislation, and they use it to remove politicians I don't like, I still won't support it. Because whether the politicians want to act like it or not, we still live in a democracy. And in a democracy, the will of the people, not the government, will be imposed. I'm Rachel Emanuel, and this is the Alberta Roundup.
All right, so I'm going to pause that there. So first off, we're going to get into this. Danielle Smith, so she's putting in the ability for the provincial government to take out city councillors when it's in the public interest. Now, obviously, out the gates, this sounds to me like it just allows, like Rachel said, for so much abuse by a potentially corrupt provincial government in the future. But I think it seems like Danielle Smith knows she's in a war against these globalists, and all of the town councils seem already compromised 100% by, if you look at, and I know this has nothing to do with Alberta, but you look at the recent BC elections. We did a whole episode on how it looked totally sketchy. All the people that got put in as mayors and councillors in BC, seeming to have ties to China, other just leftist organizations cheating in the elections, because, well, they had just put in the electronic voting systems in 2018 so that they could rig the elections. So I'm assuming they did. And also knowing sort of the trend of how things are going, leftist governments were doing terrible in polling at the same time that a ton of NDP or just leftist people got voted into city councils. And so it's a mess. Yeah. And to me, I'm seeing Danielle Smith putting in laws so that they can fight against these already agreed upon 15-minute cities that we know these cities have already signed up for. And we know that the city councils of Edmonton and Calgary are totally corrupt leftists working for the United Nations programs, World Economic Forum. So we know they're already in place. So what do you think about that, Jack?
I think that's definitely an interesting perspective to look at it, because I would agree. I think a lot of these cities, municipalities are fully on board and have been captured by what we would consider the WEF or the UN Agenda 2030, however we want to look at it. I mean, just again, go back to how many people they had in place and on board for the whole COVID thing, to pull the trigger on that. And everyone just was full speed into that, right? That, I think, showcases the control that these foreign actors had over our country at the time. And so again, I think there absolutely are these cities that are already, I mean, the city that I'm in, you can see the way they're developing the infrastructure it looks like towards these 15-minute city models and stuff. So it's very apparent to people living in these cities, from what I can see, that are patriots, that are awake. Everyone sees this as a real problem. Yeah. So I think, you could be onto something with that, perhaps. But I do understand, it's kind of like the Well, the whole when people say, "Oh, punish them for treason," it's like, well, you don't want to go overboard because in theory, if somebody got in, like Trudeau could just say we're treasonous and hang us or whatever, right? So you got to be careful with it. But so I see the danger, I guess, that she's getting at there, is that you wouldn't want that power to get into the wrong hands and open up the can of worms that way, where they can just remove patriots or just people with a free voice that they don't like on a specific council or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or if cities are refusing to go along with some provincial COVID plan, right? And then, you just wipe out the whole city council? No, in theory, though, if you had fair elections in that town and they try to do that, you just elect another city council of people who will not agree with the, COVID laws and things like that. And later on in this episode, we're going to get into some of the COVID stuff and how I think that it's never going to happen again, because I think they're played out, and you have even people that were on the other side for all the ridiculous pandemic stuff now switching sides. So I don't think we can really go back, but I do see, and I'm sure Danielle Smith sees, these 15-minute cities plans have already embedded. Like, just think, probably most of you listeners out there can think of how many cameras have gone up over 100% of your city, right? So that every single block is monitored by cameras. So that, and then they're going to get, with the 15-minute cities program, this isn't theory, this is written, that they're going to get facial recognition in the things and then have a whole database. And then in the future, when they have enough data storage, then they'll be able to look up who shows up at what time, where, and all that kind of stuff. And then if the municipalities are going to try to say that it's fully within their jurisdiction to have a 15-minute city program like this that blocks people's ability to move around or gives people fines for this, that, and the other, Danielle Smith knows that these people are already signed up for that crap and wants anybody that actually tries to do it to get ousted. Now, it seems to me that the Canadian Constitution and Charter of Rights already protects us from the 15-minute cities. So I don't know, do these new laws need to be put in place for that? Or is there something written into this bill? I haven't read it, which is the sad part. But is there something written into this bill where the provincial government is going to have to prove that these people have been operating with or under the control of outside interests outside of Canada, right? Or something like that. Or that they're getting their policies from somebody outside of the city. So that would be interesting to know. And I'm sure a lot of these questions, like Danielle Smith is getting grilled pretty hard on this sort of stuff. So
there's a few things yet to be seen with this, but I think there's definitely something interesting surrounding this.
If I had to guess, it does seem like she's going on the offense on behalf of the United Conservative Party of Alberta, which we know has a lot of patriots in it, going on the offense against 15-minute city plans. So
we will see.
Yeah, we will see. But like Jack's saying, you never want the ability of the other side to be able to use these kind of laws. But then on the other side of it, it's as if they wouldn't put these laws in place anyway.
Yeah, well, we don't want to lose our damn country either, right? I know.
Yeah. Well, it's like if Danielle Smith doesn't do it, but it could be done. And then our concern is, how's the NDP going to use these laws? Are they going to use it to crack down on people?
Somehow?
Well, what's stopping them from just enacting the law anyway? I mean, it's already out there.
Yeah.
Right? The idea is already there for them to pass themselves. So, I think it's if she gets this put in place now, then she can shut down 15-minute city plans now. And so, I don't know. We'll see. Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? This is something that maybe people in the comments can have some sort of perspective on. Definitely be interested in hearing about that one.